Welcome, everyone. Today, we are jumping right into Chapter 19 to break down two absolute pillars of marketing: product and price. Now, these aren't just terms to memorize for an exam. These are the core decisions that can literally make or break a business. So let's get into the strategies you'll need to know. So, here's the plan. We're going to walk through the chapter step by step to make sure you're prepped. We'll start with the fundamentals, the marketing mix. Then, we'll do a deep dive into the product itself and how businesses manage a whole range of them. And we'll finish up by getting into the weeds on price and all the different ways to set it. All right, let's kick things off with a concept that is truly the foundation of all marketing strategy: the marketing mix, which I'm sure you know better as the 4 Ps. Pretty much every marketing choice a business makes comes back to this framework. Think of the marketing mix like a recipe. You've got 4 essential ingredients that have to work together perfectly: product, price, promotion, and place. Product is what you're selling. Price is what you're selling it for. Promotion is how you're going to tell the world about it. And place is how you're going to get it to your customers. If one of these is off, the whole thing can fall flat. Okay, theory is great, but let's look at a real-world example: the Anatara Elephant Camp Resort. They're not just selling a room, right? They're selling a whole unique experience. And to do that, they use their marketing mix to build a very specific, very premium brand image. And see how it all just fits? The product is this incredible, one-of-a-kind luxury resort. That justifies the high-end price. The promotion in those glossy magazines targets exactly the right people. And the place, how you book it, is tailored to how those customers shop for travel. It's this integration, this consistency across all 4 Ps that makes the brand so strong. Let's really drill down into that first P, product. You can make a pretty strong case that this is the most important P of them all. I mean, think about it. If your product isn't any good, it doesn't matter how great your ads are or how low your price is, it's just not going to work. You know, a product is way more than just the physical thing. You have the tangible bits, sure, the stuff you can see and touch, like the engine size in a car. But just as important, sometimes even more so, are the intangibles. This is stuff like the brand's reputation, the feeling you get from owning it, the customer service. That's the stuff that builds a real connection and makes a brand powerful. Businesses can't stand still. If you're not creating something new, you're getting left behind. This is where new product development, or NPD, is so crucial. And there are tons of reasons to do it. Maybe customer tastes have changed, or a competitor just launched something new. Maybe there's a new technology to take advantage of. Businesses also launch new products to find new ways to grow, to spread their risk across different markets, to polish their brand image, or hey, maybe they just have a factory that's not running at full steam. So if you're going to launch a new product, it has to stand out. It needs what we call a unique selling point, or a USP. This is the one thing that makes your product different and better than everything else out there. A killer USP is your secret weapon. It's a huge competitive advantage. And here is probably the most famous USP of all time. Domino's didn't promise the best tasting pizza in the world. They made a promise about speed and reliability. With that simple sentence, they carved out a unique space in a super crowded market, and it worked brilliantly. Okay, let's shift gears and work through activity 19.1 from the book, because this is exactly the kind of analysis you'll be asked to do. This activity is all about trying to quantify the value of a brand. Take a look at question 4, which is about Coca-Cola. Is a Coke tangibly, fundamentally different from a Pepsi? Not really, if we're being honest. The secret to Coke's dominance isn't in the liquid, it's in the brand. It's in those intangible attributes. For decades, they've built this incredibly powerful image around happiness and togetherness. That's the real USP, and it's that emotional connection that drives its success, far more than the secret formula. Marketers love using tools like this. It's a market map, sometimes called a perceptual map, and it's a really simple way to visualize where your brand sits compared to the competition. So here, we're looking at soft drinks based on who they're for and how much sugar they have. It's great for seeing who your direct rivals are, but the really exciting part for a business is finding the empty spaces on the map. Those gaps could be a huge opportunity for a new product. Okay, moving on. Most businesses don't just have one product, right? They have a whole range of them. So let's look at the strategic tools they use to manage that entire product portfolio. First up is the product lifecycle. This model is essential. It charts a product's sales from its very beginning to its very end. And the key takeaway here is that nothing lasts forever. Every product has a limited lifespan, and your marketing has to change as the product gets older.
So the life cycle has 4 distinct stages. First is introduction. When you launch, sales are low, costs are high, and you're probably not making a profit. Then, if you're lucky, you hit the growth stage. Sales take off, and you start making money. Next comes maturity. Sales growth flattens out because pretty much everyone who wants one has one. This is usually the most profitable stage. And finally, decline, when sales start to drop off as better, newer things come along.
But here's the cool part. Businesses aren't just helpless passengers on this ride. They can use what are called extension strategies to try and keep the product in that profitable maturity stage for as long as possible. We're talking about things like finding new markets for the product, or updating the packaging, or adding new features, anything to give it a new lease on life and delay that final decline. Okay, this table is absolutely key for your revision. You might want to take a screenshot. It shows how every single one of the 4 Ps needs to be adjusted as the product moves through the life cycle. For example, your pricing might be high at the start, but by the maturity stage, it's probably going to be much more competitive. A business has to be dynamic and adapt its marketing mix, otherwise the product will fail prematurely. All right, the second tool for portfolio analysis is the Boston Matrix. This is a brilliant way for a company with multiple products to figure out where its priorities should be. It plots all of a company's products on a grid based on 2 things: market share and how fast the market is growing. Every product fits into one of 4 boxes. You have your stars. They're leaders in a growing market, but they need a lot of cash to keep up that growth. Then you have cash cows. These are mature, successful products that generate a ton of cash. You can use that cash to fund your stars. Question marks are the tricky ones. They're in a fast-growing market but don't have a big share yet. They could become stars, but it's a gamble. And finally, dogs. Low share, low growth. They're not really going anywhere. The matrix helps a business decide which products to invest in, which to maintain, and which to maybe get rid of. Okay, let's switch gears to the second P we're covering today: price. This is a massive topic because price is the only P that generates revenue. Everything else is a cost. So getting your pricing right isn't just important, it's absolutely critical to survival and success. Setting a price is a complex balancing act. It's not just a random number. You've got to consider your costs, of course. You have to look at your competitors and what they're charging. You need to think about your overall business objectives. Are you trying to be a premium brand or the cheapest option? You also have to understand the price elasticity of demand. How sensitive are your customers to price changes? All of these factors have to be weighed up. So, with all those factors in mind, let's get into the nitty-gritty of the actual methods managers use to come up with a final price. At a high level, pricing methods fall into 2 main camps. On one hand, you have cost-based pricing. This is where you look inward, figure out your costs, and then add a percentage on top for profit. On the other hand, you have competition-based pricing, which is all about looking outward at what your rivals are doing and positioning your price relative to theirs. This is another great summary slide. Cost plus is simple and safe, but it's totally disconnected from what the market will actually bear. Contribution pricing is more flexible, but carries the risk you won't cover all your fixed costs. Competitor pricing is realistic, but might lead you to price below your own costs. And price discrimination, charging different prices to different groups, can be very profitable, but it can be complicated and can sometimes feel unfair to customers. When you're launching something brand new, you basically have 2 main strategic options. You can go for market skimming. Start with a really high price to cash in on the early adopters who just have to have it first. Think new iPhones. The alternative is penetration pricing. You launch with a really low price to grab as much market share as you can, as quickly as possible, and scare off potential competitors. This graph shows the 2 strategies perfectly. Skimming starts high, and then the price gradually drops over time. Penetration starts low to get everyone on board, and the price might even creep up later once the product is established. The right choice completely depends on the product, the competition, and the company's long-term goals. All right, to wrap things up, here's a little something to think about. If you're a brand new tech startup and you're launching your very first product, a smartwatch, which of those portfolio analysis tools would be more useful in that first year? The product lifecycle or the Boston Matrix? Think about what each tool is actually for. One looks at a single product's journey, the other compares a range of products. What's more important when you're just starting out? That's a great question to reflect on.